All right, so the first problem asks you to come up with a linear situation. Now, this should be a review from what we did in units 1 and 2. So a linear situation is something where you're adding or subtracting. So it could be all kinds of different things. Let's just say, Mark has $20 and every day he buys a $1 stick of gum. There you go. He has $20 every day. He's subtracting $1 because that stick of gum. So anyway, there's our linear situation. And over here we have a quadratic situation. We'll get to that in a second. So there's our linear, and over here is going to be our quadratic. Okay. So the second part asks you to graph both of these. Now it says to sketch a graph. Whenever it says to sketch, it just means that you don't need to be super precise. So I know that I'm going to need an x and a y axis, just like I always do. And it does ask you to label the x and the y axis, but you don't need to put the numbers. You just need to label the units. So if he has $20 and every day he buys one stick of gum, well, that means my days are going to be my x. And how much money I have is going to be my y. Now he has $20. Let's say 20 is going to be somewhere up here. It doesn't matter exactly where he's buying. He buys $1 stick of gum every day. So that means that his $20 every day is going down. So it looks something like this, and it's going down by the same amount every day, $1 every day. So it'd be like down 1 over 1 day, down 1 over 1, so on and so forth. That would be a sketch of this graph. So let's look at this quadratic situation. That was the second part. It's going to ask you to do the same thing with that. Now, what is a quadratic? Well, quadratic is going to be just similar to a linear, but it just looks a bit different. So Mr. Devon is trying to teach, but Diana constantly interrupts him. He gets so frustrated that he crumbles up a piece of paper and throws it at her. Luckily, it is paper, and Mr. Devon is a terrible shot, so it lands gently on the floor. So how are we going to draw a situation, or sorry, how are we going to graph a situation like this? Well, let's think of a few different things. We could think of this a few different ways. First, let's just think of it like, okay, Mr. Devon is standing over here. Okay. And Diana is over here. And she has longer hair. Okay. And he has this paper ball, right? And he wants to throw it at her. Now, what's it look like when he throws something? Does it go straight at him? No, it kind of goes up. And then it kind of comes back down. Oops. But luckily, he's a bad shot, and it misses, and it kind of lands, down here. Something like that. So this graph looked more like this. Well, what were the two things that we were graphing on these axes? Well, on the x, remember this is our x. On the x-axis, this is the distance, right? It's the vertical distance. Sorry, the horizontal distance where Mr. Devon is, and then where the paper ball lands. And what do we kind of measure up here, though? If we're thinking about this situation, well, this is just the height. And both of these, you probably are going to measure in feet. So you can have feet for both the x and the y, but it's two different things. It's the height and how far it goes, the distance. So that would be a quadratic situation. And just notice how the shape of this graph is different than this. So in the next question, number 4, what I want you to do is, what are the differences between graphs 1 and graphs 2? There might be more than a couple. So just think through, what are the differences between these two?